The Healer King Part 5, The War Against Arcanes began when I was 21 years old. Unlike Draxon, Arcanes didn't underestimate us. That made them far more dangerous. Their soldiers were disciplined. Their commanders were experienced. Their power users were among the strongest on the continent, and their army seemed endless. The first battle lasted 3 days, 3 exhausting days. Fire lit the night sky. Water attacks shattered the earth. Thousands of soldiers fought across rolling plains. The scale dwarfed anything I had witnessed during the Draxon War, yet something remarkable happened. Our defenses held. The techniques we had developed worked. Water users redirected attacks. Fire users dispersed incoming flames. Units protected one another with coordinated defenses. The advantages seemed small individually. Together they became enormous. Several Arcanian commanders noticed immediately. Their traditional tactics stopped working. Attacks that normally shattered formations were being blocked. Assaults that should have caused chaos were being neutralized. For the first time, Arcanes encountered an opponent they couldn't overwhelm through sheer strength. The war dragged on. Months became years. Victory remained uncertain. Both kingdoms suffered losses. Both kingdoms adapted. Both kingdoms refused to surrender. Meanwhile, my own role continued expanding. I no longer spent most battles behind the lines. Commanders frequently requested my presence near critical areas, not because I was a great fighter, because I could change battles. An exhausted unit could continue fighting after I restored them. A weakened defensive line could recover. Enemy assaults could suddenly lose momentum when opposing soldiers found themselves strangely drained. Again and again, my power altered the battlefield, not dramatically, not alone, but enough. One particular battle became famous throughout the kingdom, the Battle of Silver Ridge. Arcanes launched a surprise offensive. Nearly 15,000 soldiers advanced through a mountain pass. Their goal was simple: break our defenses, capture the nearby fortress, open a path directly toward the capital. The situation looked disastrous. Our forces were heavily outnumbered. Retreat seemed inevitable. Some commanders even recommended abandoning the fortress. General Rowan disagreed. So did I. Instead, we developed a desperate plan, a risky one, the kind that either succeeds brilliantly or fails completely. For 2 days, our soldiers intentionally withdrew. Arcanes interpreted the movement as weakness. They advanced aggressively, exactly as we hoped. When the enemy finally reached Silver Ridge, our trap activated. Defensive formations emerged from hidden positions. Water barriers redirected attacks. Fire defenses absorbed incoming assaults. The enemy advance stalled. Then counterattacks began. I spent nearly 16 consecutive hours healing injured soldiers, restoring exhausted units, weakening enemy forces, keeping the defense alive. By sunrise on the 3rd day, Arcanes retreated. The fortress survived, the capital remained safe, and Silver Ridge entered history. Stories about the battle spread rapidly. Unfortunately, many exaggerated my role, wildly. Some claimed I had defeated entire armies alone. False. Some claimed I could drain strength from thousands of people simultaneously. Also false. One particularly ridiculous rumor suggested I was secretly immortal. Definitely false. I tried correcting people. That only made things worse. Apparently, denying heroic stories simply convinced everyone they were true. By the time I turned 23, I had given up. People would believe whatever they wanted. The war continued. But gradually, steadily, Valoria gained ground. Not because we were stronger, because we adapted faster. Our defensive techniques improved constantly. Commanders learned new strategies. Soldiers developed better coordination. The kingdom evolved. Arcanes remained powerful. Perhaps more powerful than us, but they struggled to change. They relied on traditions, established methods, past victories, and eventually those advantages became weaknesses. The final campaign began during my 24th year. Both kingdoms knew the end was approaching. Neither wanted another decade of war. Something had to give. The decisive battle took place near the river Arlen, the largest battlefield I had ever seen. Thousands upon thousands of soldiers covered the landscape. Fire illuminated the horizon. Water crashed across open fields. The very earth seemed to shake. For 3 days, neither side gained an advantage. For 3 days, the outcome remained uncertain. For 3 days, exhaustion consumed everyone. Then an opportunity appeared. An Arcanian commander made a mistake, a small one, but war rarely forgives mistakes. General Rowan noticed first. I noticed second. Within minutes, orders spread throughout the army. Units repositioned, defenses shifted, the trap closed. Our soldiers struck precisely where the enemy formation weakened. Not everywhere, one location. One vulnerable point, one opportunity. The enemy line collapsed, then another, momentum shifted. By sunset, Arcanes began retreating. By dawn, they had surrendered. The war was over, finally. After 3 long years, peace returned. Valoria celebrated for weeks. Cities hosted festivals. Merchants reopened trade routes. Families reunited. For the first time in years, people smiled without worrying about tomorrow's battles. I thought life would finally become simpler. Instead, things became more complicated. Several months after the war ended, King Aldrich requested a private meeting. His message sounded unusually serious. When I entered the palace, I immediately noticed something different. The king looked tired, older. The years had finally begun catching up with him. We spoke for nearly 2 hours about the wars, the kingdom, the future. Then he asked a question I never expected. Aiden. Yes, Your Majesty. What would happen if I stepped down? I stared, certain I had misunderstood. Apparently I hadn't. The king smiled weakly. I've ruled for many years. You're still a good king. That wasn't an answer. I remained silent. The conversation felt dangerous, very dangerous. Eventually the king continued. The kingdom needs someone who can guide its future. He looked directly at me. Someone who understands change. I immediately realized where this conversation was heading, and I immediately disliked it. Unfortunately, King Aldrich was extremely persistent. Several weeks later, the council reached the same conclusion. Then the generals, then the nobles, then practically everyone else. To my horror, they wanted me. At 24 years old, I became king of Valoria. The coronation felt unreal. Thousands attended. Millions celebrated. Meanwhile, I spent most of the ceremony wondering how exactly my life had reached this point. A decade earlier, I had been a student arguing with Marcus and Lena. Now I wore a crown. Life is strange. Fortunately, becoming king didn't change my goals. If anything, it clarified them. The wars had revealed countless problems. Damaged farms, weak trade networks, economic struggles, resource shortages. If Valoria wanted lasting prosperity, military victories weren't enough. We needed growth. Real growth, so I began researching. Relentlessly, months passed. Then one discovery changed everything. Deep within a remote forest, scholars identified a rare plant species. The plant possessed remarkable properties. Under normal circumstances, it grew slowly, extremely slowly. My healing power changed that. When I applied healing energy, growth accelerated dramatically. Days became hours, months became days. The implications were enormous. Agriculture improved immediately. Farmers produced larger harvests. Medicinal plants became easier to cultivate. Food shortages decreased. Profits increased. The economy responded quickly. People became wealthier. Trade expanded. The kingdom flourished. Then I started asking another question. What about fire users? What about water users? For years I studied their abilities, observed specialists, analyzed techniques, tested theories. Eventually answers emerged. Water users could do far more than fight. Working together, large groups could influence rainfall, direct water supplies, reduce droughts, improve irrigation. Entire farming regions transformed. Harvests increased again. Fire users experienced similar breakthroughs. Instead of focusing exclusively on combat, they began supporting industry. Metalworking, manufacturing, large-scale construction, energy production. Factories became more efficient. Tools became cheaper. Infrastructure expanded. The kingdom changed rapidly. Then my 25th birthday arrived, and with it, an idea. The celebration became the largest event in Valorian history. People traveled from every region. Cities decorated streets. Musicians performed. Markets overflowed with visitors. At sunset, thousands gathered outside the capital, waiting, watching, wondering. I stepped onto a raised platform overlooking the crowd. The entire kingdom seemed present. Then I released my power. Golden light spread across the horizon, across fields, across forests, across farms, across gardens. Plants strengthened, crops flourished, trees revitalized. Entire landscapes transformed before everyone's eyes. The crowd fell silent. Then cheers erupted, louder than anything I had ever heard. People laughed, cried, celebrated, because for the first time everyone could see the future, not a future built on war, a future built on growth. Years earlier, people believed healing existed only to support stronger powers. Years earlier, some families looked down on healers. Years earlier, even students had mocked them. They were wrong. Power wasn't determined by how loudly it exploded, or how impressive it looked, or how much destruction it caused. True power changed lives, protected people, created opportunities, built futures. And standing there beneath the golden light, surrounded by a thriving kingdom, I finally understood something important. Healing had never been the weakest power. It had simply been waiting for someone to understand it. The end.